Here are the 10 best Formula One drivers of all time. Let's begin. Number 10, Stirling Moss. At number 10 is a driver who is a true legend. Stirling Moss was the most gifted and versatile racing driver Britain has ever produced. Another driver for whom simply listing the statistics is only scraping the surface, but winning 212 of 529 races is a very high hit rate. He was a driver his opponents feared, and he was possibly the best Formula One driver who never won a world championship. He'd race almost anything: sports cars, touring cars, GT cars, Grand Prix cars, and everything in between. Stirling would be outstanding in all of them. Stirling was so patriotic that he always preferred driving British vehicles, even if they weren't necessarily race winners. He came the closest to winning the championship in 1958, but for the scoring system in effect at the time, his standing as an F1 icon has not changed. Number 9, Fernando Alonso. Fernando Alonso would be much higher on this ranking if it was solely based on raw skill. The Spaniard is one of the best drivers of his generation, inspiring a new generation of Spanish drivers. A twice world champion and 32-time race winner who could have won 5 titles if the dice had fallen more favourably and Alonso had chosen who and when he competed for more intelligently. When he joined the Scuderia Ferrari in 2010, he was possibly only the third driver, after Niki Lauda and Michael Schumacher, to wield enough personality domination over the team to convincingly build it around himself. Alonso is a terrific, energetic and competent driver who has found success wherever he goes. Number 8, Jackie Stewart. A natural racer, he spent his childhood watching his father race motorcycles while his older brother Jimmy competed in the 1953 British Grand Prix. Although it may appear to be an inherent feature of F1, Jackie Stewart was one of the first drivers to illustrate that drivers can and should strive for improved safety standards. Stewart has the credibility needed to transform the culture of safety in motorsport as a triple champion and dominant force in the sport. Aside from his quest for safety, Stewart was a brilliant racer who was the man to beat during his career, winning 3 world titles with Ken Tyrrell's eponymous team, as the two formed an unstoppable double act in the late 1960s and early 1970s. Formula One would not be as safe without Jackie. Number 7, Sebastian Vettel. Vettel's Formula One career began in 2007, and in his first 3 years, he took 9 podiums and 5 wins. But this was nothing compared to what was to come. Over the next 4 years, he became the face of Formula One, winning 4 successive championships and becoming the sport's youngest world champion, taking the accolade from Lewis Hamilton. He also set records for the most podium finishes in a season, the most victories in a season, the most pole positions in a season, the most laps led in a season, the most consecutive wins, the most consecutive Grand Slams, and the most wins from pole in a season. Regulation changes in 2014 did not favour Red Bull or Vettel, and the team swiftly slid back through the pack. He went from 9 consecutive wins in the final 9 races of the 2013 season to not winning a single race until 2015, and he's only won 14 races since then. Despite this, until his retirement at the end of the 2022 season, he was universally recognised as one of the best drivers on the grid, and his list of records is expected to last for many more seasons. Number 6, Juan Manuel Fangio. When Formula One was in its infancy, Argentinian Juan Manuel Fangio dominated for a decade, winning 5 championships in the 1950s. Fangio raced in the first season of Formula One in 1950, finishing second in the Drivers' Championship after his withdrawal in the last race allowed Giuseppe Farina to win the championship. Fangio's anguish during the 1950 season, on the other hand, was quickly forgotten. The Argentine went on to win 5 world titles, all in his first 8 seasons, winning 24 races. Fangio was responsible for Mercedes' first Formula One World Championships. Because Formula One was so different in the 1950s, it's difficult to compare Fangio to other drivers. In contrast, Fangio retired with the highest winning percentage in Formula One history, a record that still remains today. Number 5, Niki Lauda. There is no better narrative than Niki Lauda's career, a spectacular comeback that was transformed into a film. Lauda won the world title in 1975, but his career and life were almost cut short in 1976 due to a terrible incident in the German Grand Prix, which left him with life-threatening injuries that doctors believe should have killed him. Despite this, Lauda was back in Formula One 6 weeks later, albeit the 1976 title was out of reach. Lauda came back strong, winning the title in 1977. His closest title fight came a decade later when he beat McLaren teammate Alain Prost by half a point. Lauda was a major part in Mercedes' dominance throughout the turbo hybrid era, although he is better recognised as a fantastic racing driver. Lauda won 25 races throughout his career, which could have easily been cut short, but the Austrian had more courage than any Formula One driver in history, a truly exceptional man and racer. Number 4. Alain Prost. The driver placed 4th on this list more than deserves to be here. To begin with, he's won 4 World Championships and moreover 50 Grand Prix, and his racing skill is arguably the purest of all time. Alain Prost's precise manner enabled him to compete against Ayrton Senna in the heated feud for which he is most famous. His secret weapon was a combination of speed and intellect, and he possessed a natural excellence in his driving that allowed Prost to become France's first world champion in 1985. In 1987, he broke Jackie Stewart's record of 27 victories, and a year later, McLaren won 15 of 16 races, demonstrating the powers of both Prost and Senna. Prost remained at the top of his game until his retirement at the age of 38, when he won his 4th and last championship for Williams. The Professor, as he was dubbed, is without a doubt one of the greatest of all time, and he well deserves his position on this list. Number 3. Michael Schumacher. Who knew in 1991 that this German rookie for Jordan would go on to become one of the greatest drivers of all time? Some thought he'd never be surpassed as a racer. Many consider him to be the greatest race car driver of all time. Michael Schumacher possessed all of the qualities that would distinguish him as the ideal racer: speed, focus, courage, judgment, character, and arrogance. Until the emergence of Hamilton, he was the face of Formula One dominance. 7 titles, 5 of them consecutive, an almost overwhelming number of victories, and unwavering competitiveness. Schumacher changed the game in Formula One with his mix of devotion, passion, and of course, raw brilliance. He won 2 titles with Benetton, although he is best known for his time with Ferrari. He joined the squad in 1996, and despite numerous ups and downs in the years thereafter, the combination struck gold in 2000. 5 World Championships, 48 victories, and a record book featuring Michael Schumacher's name in almost every category followed during the next 5 years. Number 2. Lewis Hamilton. Certain records were thought to be unbreakable, but then came Lewis Hamilton onto the scene. In terms of career victories and overall career poles, Lewis Hamilton is the most successful Formula One driver. The British driver has won races in 30 different countries, has won a race in every season he has raced in until last season, and is currently tied with Michael Schumacher for the most world titles, having just missed out on an 8th world title to Max Verstappen in 2021. Lewis made his Formula One debut with McLaren in 2007, a risk taken by McLaren president Ron Dennis that paid off handsomely. Hamilton was immediately competitive. He just missed out on the 2007 championship by 1 point, but he went on to win it in 2008. He joined the Mercedes F1 team in 2013 and went on to win 6 of his 7 championships. It's tough to imagine another driver ever breaking his record of 103 wins and 103 pole positions. Number 1. Ayrton Senna. Supremely talented? Yes. Highly dedicated? Absolutely. Popular? Without a doubt. Ayrton Senna is widely regarded as the best racing driver of all time. There isn't much to say about the Brazilian superstar that hasn't already been said, except that he was the driver who was willing to go further in search of success than anyone before him. The statistics, 65 pole positions, 41 wins, and 3 world titles reveal a lot about Ayrton's racing genius. Ayrton was almost a mystic in his intensity, and he truly believed that he had a God-given right to win. Following a brief spell with Honda, his most notable achievements were with McLaren, where he formed a heated rivalry with teammate Alain Prost. Senna drove for Williams in 1994, but was killed in a high-speed incident at the San Marino Grand Prix. Formula One had lost one of its all-time greats far too young, but he left a legacy that would not be forgotten. The difference between him and other drivers is that whereas those other drivers were fantastic on occasion, Senna, on the other hand, was spectacular every time he got into a racing car.